Hi, it's Peg, and welcome to my channel. Today, I am doing the fast version of the live show that we do each Thursday on Art Joy is Sharing. Art Joy is Sharing is a Facebook group that Chelsea and I have, and we do a live show each Thursday, 10:30 Central Standard Time, and the channel is Art Joy of Sharing Live. So you can join the Facebook group, you can come and join us live and be in the audience and chat with us. But this month has been about watercolor. Shell and I have shared pans of watercolor and, used a lot of different watercolor mediums. And so we're talking about the books that we have that we're using. I have these different journals that I work out of because when you have a wet page, you need to have another one in the background waiting to work on. So I actually have 3 watercolor journals out here, 2 of which are Strathmore watercolor paper. And I'm just showing some of the pages and, talking about the different products that I use. And these are just a couple of watercolor pieces that I'm going to work on to start with. Now this one I have actually done some embossing on. I've embossed in white and I'm just going to add some uh, color to the images. And first thing is to wet my surface where I'm going to drop in the watercolor. This is what they call a wet on wet technique. And I'm using watercolors directly from my pans that Shell and I have been sharing the colors. Now, this brush that I'm using is one that I picked up when I was at Jerry's Artorama. And, the thing about a watercolor brush is you want something that's going to hold a lot of water. I'm sorry, I have 2 cameras overhead and I keep bumping this one, and I apologize for any shakiness, but we're trying to do the live show. I'm trying to show things. These are the metallic watercolors, and I have both koi and some metallic gouache that Shell had sent to me in this pan. And I want to add some of the metallic to this butterfly image. So I'm just going to use some of that gouache. And I also have a few pans that I had created. I was working with Gina B. Ahrens, and we were talking one day, and we had some pigment powders and some powders from the dollar store, the eyeshadow type things. And so I got out some gum arabic and made a few pans from other products to see what kind of metallics or metallic-like watercolors I could create. And I think Gina did the same. So, yeah, that was kind of a fun thing to do. And so I'm just going to continue filling in the background. And I'll get some salt out and I'll salt the background. And then I'll set this piece aside to dry. Now, what I like to do with these embossed pieces is once all of that color has dried and the salt has dried is to brush the salt off, and then I will take just a cheap piece of paper and cover the image and iron it so that it lifts all of that embossing off of there. I'm showing my water pan. I have these 3 glass containers. This is a piece that I picked up from IKEA, I believe. And so I've got my dirty water, my semi-dirty water, and my clean water. And yeah, I like to have that. I like to rinse my brush thoroughly, when I'm changing colors, and I like to press my brush on the side of the glass dish to um, take some of the water off of the brush and then have my rag in my hand. Now we're talking about different brushes and sizes of brushes and shape of brushes. You know, you want to have a nice watercolor brush and only use those brushes for watercolor, not for acrylics or anything else, because you want to keep your water brushes pristine for water media. Okay, so um, if you want to see what Shell produced for today, you can go over and check out her channel. It's Chelsea. I think it's listed in the description box below. And yeah, I'm just getting that salt on there now to give it a little different background. And I'm changing up. Gonna go to this other image. This is just a stamped image on watercolor paper. You know, because what I'm saying is if you are not somebody who likes to sketch and draw, you can use these watercolors just on stamped images. So I'm going to grab my other pan, and this is a brighter palette. I'm just showing, you know, how I have my pans laid out. And I have several different brands, you know, whether it's M. Graham or Daniel Smith or Mission Gold or, you know, there's a lot of different brands. And I'm showing how this particular brush helps to get those curved marks, because it's already got a shape to it. So, you know, showing how you can get a thin line, a thick line, and yeah, making a mess. So, don't know why I'm continuing with this brush, but I guess it's because it's what I had in my hand. So I'm going to switch my brush back out, and I'm going to do a little bit of color blending, adding in 3 different shades to this butterfly, and keeping my mop handy there to clean it up. And yeah, I want to put some background in there, but that's still too wet. So I'll set that one aside. Now I'm going to go to journal, setting my palettes aside there. And this is an Arteza journal. They had them on sale over Christmas. And what I'm going to do is, I had wet this page down a little bit before we started. I'm just filling up a water reservoir brush, and I'm getting out some water-based markers. And I'm going to use them on here. Now, typically, you have to work pretty fast, and I yak a lot during these live shows, so I'm not working fast enough to get this stuff to flow. And I'm just showing the different tips between the Tombow marker and the La Plume. They have a couple of different tips on them. So, you know, they're similar markers, but the fine tip is a little bit different. So you can see I'm just using that marker, and my page, yeah, my page is dried out. So I'm having a little bit of trouble in getting that to move with my watercolor. So yeah, I'm going to end up making a mess out of this page. And I finally decide that, oh, I need to set this aside and come back when it is dried down and work over the top again, because yeah, sometimes the live shows work out real well, and sometimes I have a hot mess because I've been talking about different things. And yeah, okay, so I wanted to paint some cactus. I have some cactus on there. I just sketched it out with a pencil, And I'm trying to use those markers to do that with, but yeah, like I said, this needs to get set aside. Now I'm talking about scrubbers. You know, I'm talking about just doing some sketching in the book. These are mushrooms that I had created before the show, just using a pen, and you know, make sure that they're waterproof pens if you're going to do this. I'm just dampening down that a little bit, adding a little bit of that red marker to the cap of my mushroom, and working around those little circle spaces because I want to maintain some white on those caps. So basically, I'm just showing how you can get a little shading in there. You know, the dark is coming from the left and the light is coming from the right, and you know, leaving the spots on the cap of the mushroom. And going to keep going with this a little bit, and then I'm going to move on to something else. I'm just, you know, showing how you can blend this out and get some effects using water-based markers. You know, whether you're going directly to the paper or you're scribbling them out on a craft sheet, you know, it's all good. So I'm grabbing another journal, just showing, you know, how you can get different effects. And, you know, here I've got, you know, just some blobs of watercolor and showing how you can doodle on these. Talking about the pen that I'm using, which is a Pilot multi-ball. I like this. And just showing different ways that you can doodle onto these pieces, whether you're using a stencil or freehand. You know, there are a lot of ways that you can create images on these watercolor splotches. Creations by Cece is one of the channels that's out there that does a lot of this. There are any number of people that do watercolor doodles. Joanne Sharp, one that comes to mind. I know, who were we talking about earlier? Jody Ohl, I think, does some watercolor. Anyway, so you can get the drift here. This is one where I just doodled over the top of some watercolor on the page that was already there. And now I'm showing how, you know, if you don't want to sketch, you can just use a bunch of different small images to build a scene. So I decided I was going to do a landscape. Sorry, there goes that camera again. And using those same brush tip markers to get color on these stamps. And I'm just going to, you know, you want to stamp first generation, second generation. As you move away, you know, in the distance, the images are going to be lighter. You know, it's like when you look off in a distance and things are kind of foggier or, you know, not quite as clear. So I'm layering some tree trunks in, and then I'm looking for some foliage. And you don't have to ink the whole stamp. You can just, you know, ink it a little bit to get some leaves going, and yeah, just layering those in. And I'm going to change colors, add another layer of color, doing first and second generation stamping here. And then I'm going to want to wet that to give it more of a watercolor. Now you can do it with your brush, you can do it, you know, just with a squirt bottle, all kinds of ways of doing this. But for this type of thing, it's just layering over layers. You're going to put some stuff down, you're going to moisten it, Now I'm going to a fountain pen because I want to put some mountains in the background here. And this fountain pen is loaded with kind of a purple. So we've got Purple Mountain Majesty here. And I'm just using my water reservoir brush to layer that in. And whoops, wrong ink pad. Oh, that's shaking. Sorry, I had to cut out a little bit of the video there. The cord to my camera is running right over there across the desk, and I keep shaking the cord, which shakes the whole thing, and it just is going to make everybody seasick. I apologize. So I'm continuing the layers here. I need to dry things off a little bit before I add more layers, and you know, you could set this aside and just let it dry on your desk and go back and forth between journals, or you can do as I do and use a heat tool. And now I'm going in with some more greens and grays and texturizing. This time I won't spray it. This time I will use my water brush, and now I'm, putting in some of the trunk for these trees. And I want to get some other colors in. There's that jiggle again. Oh my goodness. Make myself seasick here. Every time I reach for a ink pad, looks like. So there I am wetting that down. And I want to get some more things into the background. So I'm going to add some little flowers here in the foreground, and then I will add some more hills to the background. I'm going to mix up a little bit of blue and purple for the sky. Get some clouds going, happy little clouds. And bring some more of that purple into the mountainous area. Just showing you a big flat brush that I'm using for that. And I'm going to get out some other markers. These are those big fat markers, and adding a little bit of a gray-green and a gray to those hills in the background. Then I'm going to get another stamp. I want to add some other types of trees. So I'm looking at some Stampscape stamps. Going to ink those up and add in some more trees in the distance there. Just lightly touching those with some water. And then I'm going to move on to another journal or something here. Yep. So I'm just showing you, some of the different things. This is a one color study, and I'm just showing how you can use these fountain pens to do some quick studies like this. Now, I took more time. We're getting towards the end of the show. I took more time to do the page that was prior to this. This is just the back of another page, and I thought, well, I'll give them the impression of how to do this. I'm going to put a frame around it. I'm going to make a double frame so you've got something that you can actually doodle inside of. I want to write some words, so I'm going to say make art. And you want to use both uppercase, lowercase, wonky letters, all of that to create this. And then I'm just going to add some water. And bring out the images. So that's about it for what we did on the show today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you get out your watercolors. I hope you join us on Art Joy of Sharing in the future. And whether it's the Facebook group or the live chat each Thursday, we'd be glad to have you there. And I want to thank you for your kind comments and sharing your artwork with me and with Shell. And be sure and check out Shell's videos. And I'll see you again soon. Bye, my friends.